there's going to be a lot more build sessions. It's going to take a little while to build this, but it's going to end up being a very unique car. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I've got a bit of a treat today. I'm going to start building the Grand Prix 3D radio control car that was designed by Andrew Cooke. And I've got it right here. You see the box, nice black box here. It's got a little bromide type silhouette on the face there. And over here we've just got a tablet here so I can go through the manual. So how about we have a quick look at what it's going to look like when you open the box. Now this is a retro radio controlled car and it's been fully 3D printed. Now let's have a look here. As you open it up, you get this nice little thank you note. And you've got a little link here to find the instruction manual. So there's also a QR code there if that works for you as well. So pop it over there and then you have all the parts are all nicely wrapped up. So let's pull this out. And you'll find that there's a bag of all the parts that you need right here. And it's quite nice that all the individual bags have got individual labels and bag numbers on them. So you know exactly where you need to look in the manual. Or I should say the manual tells you exactly where to find the parts you need. Okay, so if I bring this further out, all right, so here's the GP3D website. So all you need to do is after you've purchased your model, you just need to go to the menu. We'll go to manuals. And from here, you have the assembly manual. You can download the full lot if you like and have it as a file. What I'll be doing, I'll just be going through all the different individual links for each section. So you start off with the introduction. Introduction goes through here, you just scroll through and it gives you a description of an explanation of how this particular project came about and how the car is made. There's a description of all the different components and materials that are used and why they were used for certain components. And then from there we got the legend for symbols and a guide of how to actually follow the manual. So what each of the labels means on the packet, how to I guess identify the parts, and then how you go about proceeding. So there's a little packet of tools as well. There's some sanding paper for cleaning up, some drill bits, and also a very fine Allen driver. So there's going to be a few other tools you're going to need. So I've got most of those in my little tool pack here. So this is one of the 9 steps tool sets. This is the 5-piece, and then there's also, I've got a 50 thou here for the very fine Allen type screws and grub screws. Okay, so I'll pop that aside. All right, and there's also a bag of spares as well, just in case you need them. So as we continue on, it gives you some techniques on what you should do. So a 3D printed model is quite bespoke. They're basically built on command, and the materials and also the consistency of the parts is not always going to be the same. So hence you need to be more careful when you're putting them together and not coming out of precision molds. Each single piece is an original that comes out. So it might have a slightly smaller hole, maybe needs a little bit of drilling, needs a little bit of care. You just need to pay attention to that as you're building along. Okay, so that's the introduction done. All right, so let's go back and we'll go to the first step, which is the front bulkhead. Okay, so let's locate our components. So let's move this aside to here. I've got my mag visors here because I do tend to need them for building these days. Move this across. Let's get our bag and locate those parts. All right, so there's one bag we're going to need. So that's a tool pack with the spares, I think. So I've got the tools there. I'm going to need the front bulkhead parts. So I need that. That's pretty much for the moment. All right, let's put the rest of this gear here and we'll go through this manual. So we've got all our parts. Let's empty this up onto our bench. Oh, there's a packet of spares there. We'll keep that for later. All right, so we'll get our major parts. We've got a bulkhead that's all printed, a servo, and all these other bits and pieces. All right, let's just lay them out here. We've got our hardware pack as well with all the screws. Now, I think what I'll do is I'll get one of these parts trays that I've got right over here. These are all pretty handy, and we'll empty it into one of these so I don't lose the screws. Let's pop that there. Okay, let's get along here. Step 2, servo installation. Okay, so we need some M2 by 10 countersunks. So that'll be these. Just zoom this up a bit and see what I'm doing. All right, so we need this. This is a servo mount. All right, so you can see the countersunk areas there. All right, so that's a bit tight for my liking. So let me just get the drill bit. So in parts like this, the screw should be actually going through these holes quite smoothly, and then they should thread up to the other side. So is it 2mm? Is it 2mm? What's this one here? Okay, so that's a 2mm. We'll put this one aside over there. Don't need that anymore. Maybe this one is a 2mm. Yep, that is. Okay. Let me see if I can just open up these holes a little bit. Alright, so that's what we wanted to do. You just want the screw to actually press all the way through. It doesn't have to be too loose, you just want it to be able to go all the way through and nip this up to the bulkhead. Let's do this end as well. You might notice I'm just using my finger force to do this, so would be quicker with a drill. But I guess sometimes using your finger force is just, it's got a bit more control as well. Right, just a bit more. Actually, a pin vise would have been handy. I don't have my pin vise here at the moment. Okay. Look-see. Just needs a little bit more. Alright, so that's all the way through now. Okay, that's what we want. Okay, pull that over here. Okay, so we just need to find the right size driver. Right, so it's a 50 thou. Okay, so we just need to make sure that we tighten these up so there's no gap remaining. Okay, so we have our first part on. So now what we want is a servo in place. Let's drop our servo inside and line it up with the mounting holes. And we need M2 by 10. 10 with the washers. Okay. All right, so we're just going to screw these in so they're not totally tight because we still have to align the servo afterwards. Oops, they're bigger. That'll be a 1.5 mil. Alright, so just screwing into place with a little bit of gap there, so it still has a little bit of movement there, as you can see. Alright, so let's move on to the next step. Okay, so we can slightly move. Let's move on. Okay, so we're going to do the steering column now. Alright, so we've got all these big chunky components here. We're going to add shaft, drive. Don't need that yet. So pinion part there. This adapter. That's this part here. Alright, and some screws and bearing. So there's this larger bearing here. Two by 16. 2 by 16, 2 by 20, that's this big long one here. And a shorter 2x10. 2x10, okay. And a washer. Some washer in here. And grub screw, okay. And scrub screws, okay. Let's move on. Alright, so we're going to put this steering column together. Okay, so that's a big long screw. Go through here. Just going to drill out this hole a bit. Oh, for the next session I'm going to make sure I have my pin vise here. It's starting to hurt my fingers. Okay, so we're through there. Alright, so that's nice and smooth. The screw goes in and out of that. Alright, so we're going to screw this into here. Alright, so we need to make sure that this is all tightened up so there's no movement. Okay, so that's tight. Alright, now what are we going to do? Alright, so we're going to go back to our front bulkhead. And we're going to feed the lead back through here. But then this part is going to slide in here. Okay. Alright, so we've got that through. Okay, so it is meant to be only halfway in. Okay, so let's move to the next step. Alright, so through the front we're going to feed this servo wire. Okay, let's feed this through here. Okay, so I press this steering column block in place and we're going to screw it through the top here. 2x16s. Okay, so I'd probably like to drill those out a bit. Let's pull that out again. Okay, it doesn't take much effort, but that helps. Right, so let's just see that the screws go through easily. They do. Good stuff. Alright, let's try that again. Alright, so I want to feed that through again. Making sure the servo wire doesn't get pinched. It just needs to go through this notch. Press it in place. Okay, so there you go. So basically once this is pressed into place, you want the servo wire to be loose, like so. And now we're going to fix it in place with these two screws. Alright, so I'm going to do this up until it's tight. Okay, so that's tight. Alright, we'll get our servo inside the bulkhead now. Alright, so what do we do now? So we're going to get the bearing and we're going to pop it in the back here. That should be just a pressure fit. Alright, so just a nice tight pressure fit. And then we're just going to pull this tight so there's no slack from the other end. So just like that. Okay, so it's going to be tight inside. And you've got all the servo lead mainly on this side. Alright. Alright, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, steering column. Alright, so we've got this part which we assembled earlier. Alright, so this goes through the front with a bearing. Oh, wrong way around. Okay, this way. This goes in this way. Okay, and then we've got the front here. And then what do we do? We've got this section here, slides over. Actually, there's a particular point that it goes. Okay, so grub screws need to be facing upwards. Those slides in here. Okay. Okay, so we need a screw to cut the thread. That is a really important part because the grub screws can be quite fragile. They've got very small heads in them. Alright, so let's just cut the thread. Okay, let's see how we went there. Oh, I need my little tiny grub screw out of here. Allen key, I should say. And this should go through here. And I guess we'll screw it in until the end of the grub screw is flush with the edge of that gear. Okay, all right, so that's good. All right, so what's our next step? So we have okay. Secure the steering column support with the 2x10. Okay, so that's a 2x10 and that must be the support. So that'll screw through there. All right, so let's make sure this hole is nice and free. All right, let's just drill that out a little bit. All right, so that's good. Screw goes in nice and easily now. Okay, so I'm just going to screw this all the way in until it homes. It's nice and tight. And again, just have to make sure it's not overly tight. So that's all the way in, and then just nip it up a little bit. That's all you need to do. All right, so let's put that aside. Oh, it says do not fully tighten yet. Oh, well, I've already fully tightened it. We'll loosen it off a bit later. Okay, so step 8 is the servo mechanism. Now, before I continue on, I think we're going to call it a session. So you just see how quickly it was to build. So in this particular session, we've gone through the manual and how to navigate through all the parts. We've started the build, so we've got this big chunky bulkhead. This is a front bulkhead with a steering mechanism built in. We've mounted the steering servo and we have the steering column getting fixed into place now. So next part is going to be the actual servo mechanism and how that attaches to the gear and makes it work. And we'll continue on with that in part 2. So in the meantime, that's what we're up to. There we go. It doesn't look like much at the moment, but I mean, it is pretty chunky and it does already feel like you've done quite a bit. Okay, so you can imagine you've got the little pinion gear here. That's going to be driving the actual steering to the wheels. And then there's another gear here, and that's going to be controlling the driver's arms, because the driver's arms are going to be moving like this. And then the servo is in place as well. So, okay, it's been fun so far. So, thanks for joining in. Please come back and watch session 2. There's going to be a lot more build sessions. It's going to take a little while to build this, but it's going to end up being a very unique car. So, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.